Hello and welcome to the first ever edition of Ready Start Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Fernandez. To get to know me, I'm a university student studying a Bachelor of Serious Games Design at the University of Sunshine Coast, Queensland, Australia. My passion is programming, and for today's special question, what is your favorite video game? Mine would have to be the first Kingdom Hearts game. It's the first game I 100%ed as a child. It brought a tear to my eye when I finished the game because it was the first game with a real proper story that really brought me in. And for today's guest, we have...
Hi, my name's Kirsty Tschirpig. I'm a senior associate tools programmer at Sledgehammer Games. I guess my favorite game ever has to be World of Warcraft. I don't have any emotional moments to do with it. It's a really cool game, and I've been playing it for most of my life, as well as a bunch of other series.
All right, thank you. And this is the podcast. So hello, Kirsty.
Hello.
Hello. So to get started, I thought I'd ask. So just recently, you've moved from a smaller mobile company to a AAA developer.
That is correct. Yep.
So I was wanting to ask, how has that transition been? And also, has the scopes of the project you've been working on, would you consider them to have increased or decreased?
So the transition, I think it's been relatively smooth. Of course, there's a lot of learning curves that I need to overcome by moving from a indie mobile studio to AAA. But it's been really good, and I've had people in the company help me out, and I've had my own lead mentoring me through the whole processes and everything like that. So it's been smoother than I anticipated. Of course, getting into the company and my first week was an overload of information. It was so hard to keep up, but no, it's been really, really good, really welcoming, and they've understood that I've come from a mobile indie development background, so they're doing everything possible to upskill me and making sure I get the most support possible in order to be successful at my job. So yeah, and as for the scope, I mean, yeah, it's increased. I could say exponentially, going from small mobile games to AAA titles. So
Yeah, I can only imagine.
yeah, so it's been a good transition. I think it's really beneficial for my career as a programmer as well. So yeah.
Okay, awesome, thank you. So while at the mobile company, you worked on Sugar Slam,
Yeah.
a Snap game only played through the Snapchat app. That's a relatively new feature.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of introduced while we're working on Sugar Slam, but we're one of the kind of first titles to get into that or start developing. So yeah, it was a really interesting experience actually, and I had a lot of fun working for Snapchat and developing that title.
With the recent news between Apple and Epic's dispute over in-app purchases,
Mhm.
do you think that there will be more distribution options for mobile games in the future? Things besides just the Play Store and Apple Store?
I mean, there are speculation that it will expand the distribution of mobile games for sure. I don't really know personally because I don't really focus too much on the media or news. I kind of just code. But
Out of sight, out of mind.
I'm optimistic to the fact that there will be more platforms for that to be for games to be accessible on. So yeah.
It's good. Yeah, not just having games be on those two platforms, and then just having, if your game's not in the top rated or brand new section, it's all
Yeah.
just it dies away.
Yeah, exactly.
So while working on Sugar Slam, you created or worked with a team who created the Match 3 engine, a system developed by the lead programmers at Mighty Kingdom. What were the unique challenges in regards to this?
Yeah, so the Match 3 engine was initially created in Unity, which was done by me and another lead programmer from Mighty Kingdom. I guess one of the unique challenges that I really hadn't come across before was porting that engine from Unity into an entirely new and foreign platform and a new code base and a new language. So doing that was a pretty unique challenge. Also having to learn about a new engine and sort of pick up the languages as we go and sort of encountering different language functionalities that don't quite translate well and having to overcome those issues. And yeah, it was just that was probably the most unique challenge. Also creating a new pipeline for our code and our
Yes.
workflow, things like that.
As a studying programming here at university, I can attest to just how difficult it can be when the code pipeline isn't set up right, and you got one person working on one thing, another on another, and you've got a minor tweak here in the middle, and it just won't connect.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. We spent 2 weeks of development time just developing that pipeline in order for like a smooth transition from Unity to this new platform.
It's pretty crazy just how much time can go into just minor things with programming.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to programming, if someone doesn't like it and you have to restart it, it doesn't just affect that one thing. It could affect a whole backlog of things.
Yeah, that doesn't happen too much because that's like collaboration and the iterative cycle that we go through for the most part. So if you're developing something for someone, that would give you like a design brief or a description of what they want or an overview, and then it'll be about just like keeping up collaboration, sending them like what you've done, or keeping up the communication between that person, making sure what you're doing is like the right path that they want to achieve. I think, yeah.
With those design briefs, so if someone asks you for a specific thing, do you have to stay on the brief? And if, well, at least in your personal experiences, have you had to stay one for one on the brief, or have you allowed to have somewhat of a creative liberty when coming up with a rough idea of what they want?
Generally, the people I work with have always been open to suggestions, even like coming from a programmer. So I'm a tools programmer, so I develop tools for like artists and all kinds of other disciplines. So of course, it's mostly centered around what their needs are and how I can help them, like their workflow, and make their production run faster. So I don't give too much input into like the user experience side. I know what they want. I try and achieve that in the best way possible. And if I have input on how things should like kind of function, then that's like where I give it, essentially.
Okay, so you're going to make me the new paint bucket fill feature. That's for you. When I see that feature, I'm going to think of you.
Sure.
So what exactly is, just for those who don't know, a tools programmer? Because there's a million different programming fields.
Oh.
But specifically a tools programmer. Because I personally have not been taught tools programming. I've been taught just like make a character jump, make the character shoot. I've just been using just the simple in-engine tools. So what are tool programmers?
Oh, how would I describe this easily? I guess like all programmers are kind of the same. We just write code that makes things function, right? So you have the people that
you'd hope.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So you have the people that make the game run. But we're kind of like, I call us like the support class. So we get into the platform and we write the tools that enable like artists and like tech artists to do their job easily. So when you're in Unity and you look at the inspector and there's all those like buttons and gizmos and everything like that, essentially we're creating that. So if you want to select an asset and view it in a model viewer and then change like the rotation and different things like that, we make the system that does that kind of thing.
Wow, I couldn't even imagine that. Because that's all the intricate stuff.
Yeah, so we're focused with like the programming side as well as user experience for our tools. Yeah.
That's good. I definitely have used some tools in the past that have not been had any thought put in for the user experience, and it is more than frustrating.
Yeah, user experience is especially important for a tools programmer.
At least for a tool you want to come back to use again, you'd hope. You don't pick a hammer that has a bad grip.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So is it GOM City or GOM City?
GOM City, we called it.
GOM City, a game you worked on where you designed to help young people who are going out to live their own lives for the first time. Yep. It had an article written on about it by the ABC, where they compared it to Sim City.
Nice. Those are two completely different games. I like it.
The question is, did the writer play either GOM City or Sim City?
I feel like they might have gotten the concept of like a real life simulation from GOM City and then maybe like Googled other things that were like real life, and they may have like Sims. Stumbled across Sims and then kind of got
GOM
the idea.
City, Sim City.
Yeah, like it. I can see the thought pattern. Like, yeah, it's fine.
On the topic of ABC, you also did an interview with the ABC
Yeah.
on the games industry and the impact of games on young people.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that it's difficult for traditional news medias to cover games in a particularly serious manner than which games should be taken?
I feel like you can. This is a hard question, actually. Like it's kind of like if you're watching a football game and you're just like understanding the concept of football. It's like, of course, like your idea of it increases, or like your understanding of it increases for how much you understand about the game and like the intricacies of it. But you can kind of get the concept of the purpose of the game through just like a description of it. If the person who's talking about the game knows what they're saying, I think communication can kind of fall flat when it's a person that hasn't really engaged with the game or doesn't have that sort of knowledge about the game, tries to explain the game to an audience that then also doesn't understand like games and what they're about and what they like can try to achieve and things like that. So yeah, I think that's where the difficulty can come in.
Because I know definitely in the past, especially growing up myself, I'm 22, I'm still young. I know growing up a lot in traditional media, it was always being told that video games are either Mario, you jump up and down, that's it, thing for kids to play, or they're the devil incarnate.
Yeah, well, that would be an example of a person who hasn't engaged with the game, taking information from other sources and translating that into their own understanding, right? So if they see like a shooter game where you like kill people, they would be like, that's horrible. Like, why would anybody play that game? That is like a horrible concept. But they've never engaged with that sort of title, and they've never engaged with that experience, so they can't understand like what the game is achieving or like what that experience is like.
It's like when their kid mentions, oh, they played a video game today, I played Donkey Kong, but they heard the word video game and the parents' first mind is Grand Theft Auto or Call of Duty. And
yeah, or
those
controversial games they hear on the news.
When the kid's just like, no, I'm collecting bananas in Donkey Kong.
Yeah, pretty much. Or it's like you're playing Pokemon and you're just like, I'm just battling my Pokemon.
That's it. I'm just having a fun old time. It's bright, pretty colours.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a shared base of knowledge that someone needs to have about games to really understand the concept?
I don't think they need a shared base per se. I think it's just like, I think they need to have a person explaining the game that is familiar with games and has engaged with it to be able to understand what the game's about. So like if someone was to explain, say, GOM City without having never engaged with it before, they wouldn't be able to quite articulate the concept of the game, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it can like be explained, and it doesn't need to be a shared base. I think just one party needs to have that sort of deep understanding of like the thing they're trying to explain. That's with anything though, right? Like,
yeah.
If I try to explain a hockey match and I've never engaged with hockey before, I'd absolutely like not be able to get the concept of hockey across.
A puck and ice, I think.
They shoot things in a goal. That's ice. Definitely ice. Pretty sure they'd like fight each other. I don't know.
So you've done some work through Mighty Kingdom on the GOM City, GOM City, which had some backing from the South Australian government. As well as working on Sugar Slam for Snapchat with external clients.
Yeah.
Was there any difference as to how these clients acted when communicating with?
I wasn't really involved because I was very junior when I started at Mighty Kingdom, and GOM City was the first title that I worked on. So I wasn't involved in a lot of the discussions with the client. I think it was pretty similar, but at the same time, they didn't really have that sort of foundation of video games. So what we said, they kind of just like took on and didn't really have much like input to provide or much feedback from like a gameplay point of view. So I guess that's like where the difference lies. Whereas like with Snapchat, they gave us a lot of like gameplay feedback and like things we could improve on for like optimization and all this like really beneficial input that they had from the previous games that have been delivered to them, and like sort of learnings about their like platform and things like that. So we got a lot of like technical feedback from Snapchat, whereas with like relationships essay. It wasn't quite the same. It was more of us just like
Being considered
delivering
the professionals and knowing what you should do.
yeah, and just like trying to just build things to their sort of like design brief, I guess, like what they wanted to achieve with the game.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of like sort of like concepts like, oh, we would like them to do this kind of thing or have this kind of experience more than it, like going into the technical detail of the game that we've provided.
So it's more so I want a player to feel this while playing and be able to do this more so than, oh, here's a way you can be doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So less hands-on.
Yeah.
But that isn't always necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No comment.
So 2020, it's been a colourful year.
It's been great.
Especially for people getting into new companies.
Yes.
Yes. With the COVID pandemic. But how has this personally affected your workflow as a programmer? The shift from working in an office space surrounded by people you can bounce things off at any point in the day without having to call them up, versus to being at home where you can't just turn to the right and Billy's there also working on the same thing as you, and you're able to just be like, oh, hey, give me a hand on this. Instead, you've had to call him up and ask for his thing, and he may not be working on that, or he could be in the shower at the time. You don't know. So what's that been like?
I feel like you just answered the question for me.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. It's been an interesting transition. I think when I first started having to work from home, it was kind of hard to get my head into a working space because like
You've
the
always
disconnect.
separated home.
Yeah. So it wasn't that disconnect of like, oh, coming home from work and this computer is my home computer and this space is my home space, so I can just play video games and like just kind of relax. Whereas like having to wake up in the morning, go to the space that used to be my like video game and chill out zone, I've had to now like switch into work mode, and it was very hard to like force myself to switch into that like work mode for the first couple of weeks. I found like that was pretty difficult, and I know like I've talked to people and they found that was like a big struggle as well. But in general, it's just like it's a little bit lonelier for me. Like I like collaborating with people and being able to just like turn around and talk to my lead and bounce ideas off like seniors in my company is a lot difficult. It's like I don't like bothering people, so it's like it's hard to like overcome the little barrier of having to ask to go on a Zoom call and then like going on that call, being on camera. Yeah, it's like a lot to like overcome before I can actually like start the whole ideas process.
Definitely. And just speaking to you just before, you're definitely when talking, you're very easy to get into a conversation. I feel like when you're working from home or Zoom or something, if you're not talking specifically about work via meeting or talking something, you feel like you might be wasting someone's time.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're at an office, you know, you can go into the break room, make a cup of tea. If someone else comes in, you guys have 5 minutes
general
to chat.
Conversation. Yeah.
But whereas with Zoom or something, it's more so I'm here to work.
Yeah.
I guess that's out of your control.
Yeah, I mean, like conversations always derail. I always find I'm just like talking about random stuff during work when we're on a Zoom call anyway, just because people also want that social interaction. So we just find ourselves talking more so than we're like talking about work. So
it's definitely, I think that's everywhere here with university myself. I'll be in a group with people, we'll be working. Well, I mention a Reddit post, the next thing you know, we're all on Reddit talking. And it's very easy, especially when you're at home.
It's like we'd bring up our weekend and then we'd like derail. Oh yeah.
Having Steam be a few just a few centimeters away from wherever I'm typing, it's an itchy finger.
I don't have that. I have so in my room, I have a pretty big office room. So I have my personal computer on one side, my work like set up on the other side. So I have to physically like spin around if I have those like tendencies, which like I can't. So I always keep my personal computer off during the day, so I don't have any of those tendencies at all.
I've done something. I've personally had to move my Nintendo Switch out of reaching distance from my keyboard. Otherwise, I'll be on Pokemon or Animal Crossing all day.
Oh yeah, Animal Crossing was pretty bad for it. Having to check turnip prices every morning, that was difficult.
Day.
That was difficult. But yeah, so I'm trying to like separate workspace and home space as much as possible while I'm working from home.
It's a good thing to do. It really keeps you sane.
Yeah.
Not there's anything wrong with working for a company, but
It's good to have that separation. Like
yeah.
you'll burn out very quickly if you don't separate your spaces.
Yeah. But with the working from home transition, it's obviously not the smoothest thing. Have you seen it just and not just necessarily your company, but just in like the industry in general? Have you felt a slowdown of workflow compared to how people would usually work within an office?
I don't think I've really felt it at all. Like everyone seems pretty like motivated.
Every other day they're releasing a trailer or a game, so the
Yeah,
games are being made.
I mean, I work with like really talented and really motivated individuals, so we haven't really slowed down at all.
I think that's a
Yeah.
big thing for the gaming industry compared to others. Not belittling any other industry, but and there's a lot of industries you can get into because there's a job available.
Mm.
Whereas to gaming is you have to want to do it.
Yeah,
You
like a
have to.
passion for it is.
That's it. You're not just gonna rock up one day and be like, "Yeah, you're lead programmer. Why not? You own a computer. Hey, that's all you need." No, you need video games have to be not just a job to you. They have to be a part of your life.
Yeah, yes and no. Like you have to have a certain passion for your field, but there's always like a good emphasis of having like a personal life outside of programming. And it doesn't necessarily like have to just be more programming. Like it's a good thing if you have other hobbies, but
You telling
yeah.
me you don't program at work, go home, and then just boot up a C sharp and just keep going, just your own little personal.
My personal projects are crying right now. I haven't looked at them in so long.
I have a few on the shelf. Just ask me to come back to them. It's like, oh, one day. Ask me 3 graphics cards from now, then I'll get back to you.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And I think you've already answered this, but I'll ask anyway.
Sure.
Personal preference: working at home or working in a studio?
I prefer working in the studio for sure. I love the collaboration and I love just walking down the office and seeing what people are working on, talking to people I don't really interact with day to day because programmers can be a pretty like tight-knit group and sometimes we don't get that like social interaction of like other disciplines as much as like I guess anyone else can. But
Your own little
it's
micro
just like
community.
yeah, sometimes it can be like that. Like if you're just hyper focused on like a specific task that has to do with a lot of programmers and like your stand-ups or programmers, like it just it's naturally you just start talking to your team and your team only. So it's good to like just to be able to like go to lunch with a bunch of other people from other disciplines and having that interaction and collaboration that you don't usually get like working from home. I found it's hard to form like a social bond with people as well over Slack and things like that because it's like you don't get that face to face like personal interaction.
And the talking to other people from other parts of the industry, it's like when I'm working in programming, I'll talk to other programmers and I'm like, oh, did you see that new C sharp update? Yes. Oh, okay. Whereas if I'm talking to an artist, they'll talk my ear off about how 3ds Max got an update and now this logo is slightly different color and it throws them off their game. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. And then I'll talk to them about how when working through Unity, they've made it so much easier to export games. They're like, oh my god, that's amazing. I'm like, oh, you really think so?
Oh, that's great.
So a big one for me personally, and I think everyone working on this project right here, and I think anyone just hopefully listening to this podcast is what advice would you personally, someone who in the industry, would give to people trying to get into the industry?
Oh, you almost lagged then, and I was scared I wasn't going to hear the question. Okay, advice for people in the industry. I have a lot of advice. I guess I'll start from like university life.
Oh yes, so sorry, I have the both people starting their degree right now and people like myself who are just about to graduate.
Right. So starting your degree, I would say 100% treat university like you want to get a job tomorrow. So like the biggest mistakes I see when people go into university is they don't take it seriously. They kind of like slack off. They like everybody like has those sort of moments, right? But it's so important to just keep up that work ethic to like get those like not only get your tasks done but also invest more time into learning about like various programming things and trying to get a deeper knowledge of programming itself and even like doing your own personal projects on the side, just like trying to absorb as much knowledge as possible so that when you go into those interviews after university and try out for those jobs, that you can sort of just like floor them with all your knowledge and try to like impress them as much as possible. Because it's like it shows that you're doing more than just the bare minimum, and because it's such a passionate field and there's so many talented people coming through that are really passionate, really want to work into games. You want to show them your own passion and like what you've been doing and how dedicated you are to like your industry, right? So it's more about like just like taking it seriously for a lot of it, like making the best products you can and just trying to improve yourself where possible. Yeah.
But not overworking yourself.
Yeah.
It's a big thing I've seen, even just here at university, and I can only imagine it's so much worse in the industry itself. Just the burnout, just like it's always good to give 110% in everything you do, but you need
it's always balance. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, I think that comes back to just separating work and social life.
Yeah, you know? Just like treating university as if it's a job. I'd say it's like a good.
I wish I had been told that when I started. So only just recently have I gotten a whole influx of information now. It's like, so yeah, I'm in my 3rd year and only just made a LinkedIn.
I mean, I've only
just started using Twitter. And
actually, that was one of the prerequisites for one of my classes, was to make a Twitter, to start following people in the industry and make a LinkedIn and like do a resume and stuff, which was pretty interesting. But it was like a good like motivator to do those things as well. So I found myself following people that I would then meet the next year at like GCAP and like do all those things.
That's been a big thing here because I made one, I wrote up a bio and I got all that, made myself look great. And then at the beginning of this year, we had all these big plans to, we're in our final year, let's go over to Gamescom, let's meet the people, let's meet the professionals, meet people who are looking for people who are coming into industry, and then 2020 happened.
That is actually pretty unfortunate, because that would be one of my advices as well, is to like go to those like events like GCAP and even those local events. I know Brisbane has like a sort of game dev meetup that you can attend, but I know that's like an hour away from you. But I used to go to those as like a university student and just meet like general people within the industry. And I feel like that actually helped me get into the industry when I was finishing university. Like it helped a lot. Like when people know your face and they've interacted with you before, and then you go for those interviews, especially for like indie studios, it sort of leaves like a good impression on them. And
And I just want to say thank you so much for doing this.
That's okay.
This is our first podcast ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and I've said this before to other people I've spoken to who have come to the university to speak to us, the half an hour to an hour that I've spoken to you has given me more of an insight, more information in the industry than I have learned throughout my entire university career.
I mean, if there's one more word of wisdom I can sort of give. So I didn't talk about people finishing university.
Oh, sorry. Yes,
I just remembered. So when you're finding a job, sort of like kind of mindset that people oftentimes fall into when they're trying to find a job in the industry, and they've been sending out resumes, doing interviews, but in like the first 6 months they don't get a job in the industry, and they get a job, say, in a different industry. It could be like
laboring
retail
or something.
And then they kind of start to get into the rhythm of their new job. The sort of dream of like game development starts to fall to the side. They don't find they have the time to like continue like developing their skills in that field. I
personally felt that.
And then it becomes more about just like making money, and then like it becomes harder and harder to get into the industry because you're not working actively at like game development and not seeking that sort of job anymore. It's just like a kind of vicious cycle that I've been seeing over and over again. It's more about just being like mindful, like if it's an industry that you really want to be a part of, just like keep at it. Just honestly, just like keep doing something in your spare time, keep making a game, keep building your skills. It's like, it's sometimes extremely difficult, and it can be, to get into the industry, but it's more just like if you keep at it, eventually you'll get in, right? So
that's it. And I think for us personally here in Australia, it's the main huge chunk of the industry is on the other side of the world. And it's like there's plenty here to do, plenty of it, and the Australian industry It took a dip a few years ago, but it's definitely back on the incline for just companies in general. And I think that's fantastic. It gives me hope.
Yeah.
A few years ago when I just before starting this degree, that's only when it started leveling out, and I was so nervous. Like, if I spend the years studying this, am I going to get a job? But I think that what you've said there is great. Even if I graduate here and I go become a labourer for a few years, or even 6 months, as long as I stick to it, constantly like looking at the industry, applying for things, never giving up. I think that's important.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, thank you so much.
It's all good.
Just outro now without forgetting any more questions. Yes, thank you. You may not know, you're still, you are still fairly new into the industry.
Relatively, yeah.
Yeah, I go by my professor. He's done it for 30 years now. I'm like, he's the industry. He's Mr. Industry.
That's true.
But it truly is, like, having you talk to us. It's a huge help. You may not know just how like big of an impact you've had on me today, right now.
Yeah, like, if you ever need any advice or any more information, I'm always around to like chat as well. That goes for all podcast listeners as well. Like,
where can the listeners find you?
Following me on Twitter and messaging me from Twitter is probably the best point of contact, because you can just search my name, it'll pop right up because my name's super unique. But yeah, I think Twitter is probably the best location. I have too many emails to remember, so I won't plug that. But yeah, just message me on Twitter if you ever need advice or just to generally chat about anything. I'm always like open for a conversation. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you everyone for listening to our first ever edition of Ready Start podcast. Hopefully the next one I'll have the questions down pat more better, and I think I've said about 50 times tonight, so hopefully I'll get better at that. But thank you everyone tuning in and taking the time out to listen to us. It means a lot, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to. It's a Thursday night. You just want to wake up tomorrow, get your day done, and then just finish. I know personally Thursday night is like when weekend mode starts creeping up. It scares me.
Nah, I love my job. I barely noticed the weekend.
Oh. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening, and have a good one.